Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics, the under-the-hood approach to the depths of human consciousness. So many mysteries, so little time, so many big words. That's why we aim to take the mystical and make it practical, usable in your everyday life. And you know, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story. What happened when you started asking yourself the real questions? Like, who am I? What is this? Is it a hologram? Is this some kind of weird cosmic joke? Hey, these are the questions that we are trying to get to the bottom of as we explore the final rabbit hole together here as Blue Collar Mystics. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Blue Collar Mystics podcast. This is the series Transurfing Safari with Abbstract1, the one and only. Welcome to the show. Welcome, Abbie.
Well, thank you. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing well and I'm happy to be here and happy to be doing this finale of a pretty long exploration of a very long book.
Yeah, very long book. This has been a little bit more work than I realized, but it's good work. So
yeah, and I think I'm hopeful too. I think that people will be able to take bits and pieces of what we're talking about, whether they've read the book or not, you know, and still see a little bit of some correspondence in their reality and really kind of take these ideas and compare them to other books and ideas, because it's a lot of the same ideas kind of written, I think, in a lot of different ways. And your studies have taken you to Castaneda and deep into dreaming and in many other places. And it's kind of cool to have this book as a companion to whatever it is that you're kind of looking into. I think it's a kind of a helpful ally as far as a model goes.
yeah, for me, it's become my map. Like, it's my main map, and everything else I filter through it. Like, even though you say Castaneda is a big part of the basis of it, it's still, to me, like, transurfing just puts it in a way, because he says that you have to break the mind. Like Jung even says that you kind of have to break the mind and allow it to see the other possibilities. You have to convince the mind that it's possible, and transurfing was able to do that for me.
Yeah, I think it's the most complete framework for this type of work. You know, people will talk about manifestation, and I think there's a lot of like that's actually starting to hit more like critical mass. You saw that video that I sent you of that lady who was like, it's hard being an alien,
Yeah.
being a human. My friend sent me that, and I swear to God, I was like, this is hilarious. I was like, I can't tell if this is for real or if it's not. I don't know, but I was just howling. Like, I was in public, like at a coffee shop, and just like dying laughing in tears watching that. And it's like, so
Like, does she mean it, or is she mocking people who...
I can't tell.
Yeah, I know. It's great.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people talk about manifestation and stuff, and it's a very natural, real process. But I think it's also something that is going to, like the law of attraction, The Secret, and all that. It just overlooked so many little aspects of it. And this that's what's cool about this particular book, the Transurfing book, because it's talking about a lot of the same principles. We talked about the mirror last week, and that's really the big key, I think, as far as this, which is kind of the same thing as the law of correspondence in the Kabbalion, which says as above, so below. And some people talk about as within, so without. A lot of people talk about Neville Goddard and stuff, but just the idea that what you think about the world is going to be confirmed to you by the world, through the lens that you've created. In NLP terms, it's it's your frame, how you see the world. And ultimately, we're at the cause of that here as the image. And so often we try to push on the reflection and create something with inner intention by pushing things out here, when in reality the real power is that connection, getting the mind out of the way, like you're talking about. This book was able to help you to do that and connect your heart, so that you're working in a way with the world. And this chapter talks about that, really being one with your environment. We talked a little bit about that in this chapter. There's a lot. He goes into a lot in this chapter. Really the beginning being about energy.
Yeah. He talks about the difference between physiological energy and free energy, and they're both important and they both relate, I would say, too. But, physiological energy is obviously, you replenish that by eating good foods and getting sleep and exercising your body, the things that, make your body stronger. And that gives you a lot of energy. But a lot of the stuff that weighs us down is the free energy aspect. And that, it's not that you don't have it. It's just that when you have so many things, obligations, and intentions that you never realized, but you've never really like given up on in a way or saw through, you have this huge energy expenditure. And so it will actually make your physical body tired as well. So the way that you can fix that really, this is where Castaneda calls it being impeccable. And for a lot of people, when you're first getting into Castaneda stuff, impeccability sounds like, oh, being without sin. And that's not what it means at all. Impeccability means that you see things through. And like, and then a dream searcher's quote is that a magician always sees things through. Like they always complete their chain of events. They see it all the way to the end, because that's how you keep your energy. It's by not just having your focused attention and intention, it's finishing the project. Because while you have all these little side projects that you've started that you've never completed but you're going to get back to someday, you have energy in that. It's still being, I don't know, diverted.
It hasn't returned. You haven't recuperated that energy from completing the task.
So you either have to complete the task or you have to decide that you're not doing it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big part. The beginning of this chapter, he's talking a lot about energy and a little bit about goals too. Anybody who maybe feels like they don't have a goal, this is a trick. There's always a paradox trick, but it's like, if you feel like you don't have a goal, then you need to allow yourself to not have a goal and just let go of that and open up and try to access more energy, to have
Yeah.
more energy. Open up your energy meridians and widen those, but not too much at once. Kind of to your point, it's like that'll give you a hangover.
Yeah.
If you like try to do it too fast or whatever.
Yeah. And but freeing up energy by, deciding what's worth your energy. You have the little craft projects that, like knitting or something, and you're never gonna knit again. You probably never will, but you're like, oh, I'm gonna pick that up again someday. Like, go ahead and let it go. Little things like that. It's just those little things, they all tie up your energy. Especially when you look at it and you're like, oh, I really should do that. Either you
Yeah.
should or you should just let it go.
Yeah. And this is the chapter 2 where he talks about, like, if you have a vice, if you do have, like, if you smoke or something, instead of trying to, like, fight against whatever that vice is, like, just accept it, and then you'll create a relationship with that pendulum that's more healthy than a non-conscious, let's say, relationship with it. Like, you get a nice pipe, you make it a thing, and it has a section of your life for that thing, and you don't judge yourself for it. You don't, beat yourself up for not being able to withstand it. You just accept it as it is, and then you actually actively gain energy as a result of the acceptance.
Yeah. So if you're a drinker, don't drink out of your freaking cheap little vodka bottle. Like, buy yourself a nice little flask and be all bougie about it. And, for whatever reason, it's just, plus, you're probably not going to do it as often. If you spend money on the really expensive tobacco and all of that, like, it's not going to take up as much of your energy in that sense as well, because you're like, huh, I'm going to wait till it's, I don't know, you pay the pendulum one way or the other.
Right.
So,
But you're adjusting your relationship to it. You're
yeah,
making a deal on your terms, whatever
yeah,
that is. And so at least at that point, now you don't have the sort of disappointment of, or the feeling of like you were weak or you couldn't, you didn't get, you gave in or whatever. It's like, okay, look, I'm going to give in, but only up to this point. So you got to like keep your energy as a result of that. And instead of like feeling powerless, like you keep a little bit.
and then the other way to give up the addiction is really to recognize it as a pendulum and that it is an expenditure of energy. Like, you think of a cigarette, if you or, whatever your habit is, and you can't wait till you get off work so you can have a cigarette. Like, that's all you're thinking about and you're stressed out. So that is an expenditure of energy, even if you enjoy smoking. So then you go and you smoke, and it's like, but if you realize that it's a pendulum and you kind of take call your energy back and you decide that you're going to quit, do it with conviction, but also realize you're going to still have to pay the price because that's what the pendulum is for. So you're going to have probably mood swing. Is still the desire, the pendulum's still going to try to pull you, but you will realize that you have so much more energy. That's when you're like, oh, that 10 minutes I sat outside with a cigarette, I got this little laundry folded. I got this done. I got that done. Like, all of a sudden, you have energy for your other things.
Yeah, I'm amazed at how much mental energy is freed up
Yeah,
particularly from that for me, because I was like, wow, I think about this a lot.
yeah.
And it's true.
It's clutter.
Yeah, and it's just like taking a mindfulness inventory, or like a or an inventory of like what you're giving your attention to, like what are the things that and um yeah, just kind of being conscious about that. Like, what are you going to allow yourself to? It really comes down to you know control your mind, and you control reality. Right.
Period. Yes,
He's
that's
talking about how what happens is we get stuck in the image in the mirror. And so, like, to like kind of bring it back from last week, like, you've got this reality that you've built all these habits and beliefs about. And so you've created your own, you know, idea of what things are. And whatever that is, it's like, well, dang it, we always get fill in the blank, and that becomes that reality. And so, because of that, because it's been projected at the mirror so much, it becomes standard. And then now, if you
and you're like,
are
I can't
looking
win
at
for
it,
trying. I can't
right,
ever get
right,
ahead. It's
right,
shitty. And it's because you are trying to manipulate the reflection instead
right.
of you're trying to shave the mirror instead of trying to shave what's at the cause of it. You're trying so
Yeah, you have to step back from those beliefs that are so embedded in your psyche about how you interpret the world, and just step back from it. Like, it doesn't mean that, you know, uh it's not bad. There's nothing to freak out, but you just step back from that and be like, okay, so how am I seeing this as a pattern? How is that? And that's because that's the reflection. That's not the image. That's what you've generated in your head about how the story of your life, your story, whatever that is. But you
Your
can change it.
programming, your parenting, your culture, it's all
Whatever.
of those things have made you think that reality is one way. And
Yes.
so that's what you're trying to change is the reflection of your thoughts. And you can't do that by projecting the same image into the mirror every single time. And so really, really concept reality is a mirror, and it really does help you to reframe your thinking and to change your life.
Yeah, that's good. You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit.
Oof.
But that's so good though. Yeah. That's really what I notice in this chapter is it's like really easy to get stuck in the effect and then think the effect is the cause, you know. I don't know if hopefully you'll just
I don't know if it's my mic or my latency, so
I think you sound good now,
okay.
but that was just all everything you were saying. It kind of came in and out a little bit, but I heard it.
Uh,
Um,
Ooh.
it's a good riff.
It's not a Monday, but it is a podcasting day, so of course technology is gonna do its thing.
Yeah, stuck in the material manifestation. Exactly, right? And then that becomes a pattern because it's like this is how it's always been. It's always been like that. This is us, this, and then you're stuck in the mirror and not in the or you're in the mirror and not at the image. And so what we want to do is change the image, the outlook, and be like, okay, well, and there's question. I mean, it's easier said than done, to be fair, like
It
anything in this
is.
world. But if you can start to do it, it definitely changes. It definitely changes the way that you interact.
If you're a transurfer, your primary goal is to get out of the mirror, to get out of the reflection and choose what's gonna be reflected. So that's really what it boils down to is that yes, your thoughts and that's what shapes your reality. So if you think of it as like a light, like your thoughts and your with heart and mind coordination, because we have to go into the alternative sector to change things. You If you think of a lamp, if I just turn on a lamp, then I have light that's kind of ambient and it's around, but it's not laser focused. Like that's intention. If your intention isn't laser focused, but I can get a laser into like very precise light and choose what I want. But the thing is when you choose, you know that you have it, you know that it's going to happen, and you don't try to control every little thing getting to that destination. It's gonna be there. So you're just trusting the process. And that really it's difficult. It's difficult to trust the process, especially when shit starts happening and it doesn't look like it's going the way that you think it should. Like, oh no, in order to get here, XYZ has to happen. But maybe it's like XQR315 and it gets you there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we do the backwards engineering thing, but it's really doesn't look like that. It looks more like a crazy like stock
Yeah.
exchange thing where it's like blah, 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 because like all these variables that you cannot consciously account for them all. So I mean, what other choice do you have really other than just to surrender? It's like if you had like an awesome partner and you were like, hey, go and do you mind going and grabbing some stuff from the store, go and run some errands, right? Like you would just let them go run the errands and come back. Like you're not gonna try to
I
follow
need
them
you
every
to go here
single day.
first and do this
Yeah,
and yeah.
message you and put you on my GPS or some shit, you know what I mean? Like
I need it done in this order.
right. Right. It's like you're not gonna no, you just allow it to be what it is and trust it. Like the world loves you, wants to take care of you, which that's one of the things that he kind of talks a little bit about in this chapter. And I'm sure there's some resistance to hearing, those types of things. But he does talk about, being children and how the world takes care of us. And this idea of this chapter is the world and I are going
On a walk?
on a
Or
walk together. Yeah.
yeah.
For a toy. But yeah, I think a lot of the mirror has to do with focusing your attention and your energy on the things that are going your way, right? And what we're used to doing is we're used to seeing the things going our way and be like, okay, cool, that's going my way. Oh, wait, this thing didn't go the way that I wanted it to. I'm going to focus on that and express distaste and dissatisfaction toward it. Well, now I'm negatively highlighting the visual. You know what I mean? Like I'm negatively highlighting what I'm focusing on, the mirror, and then I'm getting more of that as a feedback
And
loop.
you've
Like this
lost your
always happens.
focus. Yeah,
This
your laser focus on the end goal is gone now because you're focusing on the bullshit.
on one thing that really, it's like, but there's three things that went well, and it's like you never even celebrated the three things. Like I'm gonna make a video about like how it's like a Polaroid, you know? It's like a Polaroid is developing. It's like you put it out there, but you got to like wait for it to develop, but you want to highlight and focus on the things that are positive, that are leading, that are giving you feedback toward your goal, whatever those things are. And then like a watch pot never boils, he's like, don't really look at the mirror too much, but when you do look, just focus on the good things, and then you'll continue now you'll start to build that pattern. So now that's how you work on the image about the beliefs that you have about the world, that your world is taking care of you, that everything is okay, that whatever is happening, you see the positive evidence in your reality that your wish is being fulfilled. It's happening for you. So the more that happens, the easier it is to believe, and then it becomes its feedback loop. And now you've adjusted the image, and the mirror reflects it.
Yeah. So instead of thinking of the things that you don't want, you need to think of the things that you do want. And the things that you don't have, you need to think of the things that you do have. And that will help the feedback as well. That helps you get out of the image, because if you're focusing on those things, reality is going to reflect the things that you don't want.
Yep. That's why people who have bad luck, they really do. They believe it, and they are literally generating it for themselves, because their mind and heart agree that they have bad luck. And even, I mean, people who believe they have good luck, they can scientifically see evidence that they're proving their own luck to themselves in more than one area. Even if someone believes that they're lucky only in one area or unlucky only in one area, it still bleeds over.
Well, and I like how, because he gets into talismans and rituals and stuff, like throwing salt over your shoulder. It's those things are, if you believe in them, they're tried and true and they work. And a talisman is the same idea. If you think that he gets into the 3-leaf clover, that it's actually wards off evil and stuff like that in some cultures. So it's not even a 4-leaf clover, just a clover is a good talisman. So it and that's where magic comes in, right? Because magic is kind of really just becoming the talisman for you of whatever it's focusing your intention, and it's reflecting into the mirror what you expect to happen.
Yeah. And he says concentration is not tension, it is focus. And I think that's a really good distinction to make, because it's easy to feel like you're being focused when you're tense, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah. In Tufty, he gets even deeper into that and tells you that when you're focusing your intention, that you never feel it here. If you feel it in your forehead, then you're totally using your inner intention, and when you're feeling it from a place of outer intention, and it's an actual focusing in on what you want and zeroing in that your intention, it's usually felt in your back.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. So if you're feeling it up here, then you're trying too hard, and that's kind of the whole invites the balancing forces of nature to come in, and it's excess potential. You're trying too hard. So the key is to try without trying. And that's also, there's a show on Amazon Prime called Undone, and it's great. It's so transurfing. And that's one of the key things, that the girl's dad is a quantum physicist, and he's telling her, try without trying. And then she's able to like focus her intention instead of trying too hard and pulling it away from her. Because she's actually trying to manipulate, like moving her keys from one area to another, with telekinesis or whatever you want to call it. But he does get into that in this chapter a little bit.
Yeah, he does. He talks about how to move a pen or a pencil instead of
You don't
trying
do
to
it by
make it
trying
move.
really hard and making it move toward you.
Right.
You imagine little strings between you and it, and you imagine yourself pulling closer to it.
Maybe even like shifting to a timeline where it's closer to you.
Yeah.
Right. Like instead of it being this turn like energy, it's not even that. But yes, connecting directly to the environment. He talks a little bit about that in this chapter, and that it's a lot of work. But I mean, it's true. We are one with every part of the environment. Like, how can you
Every
disprove that?
particle. Yeah, quantum physics says that every particle is connected. There is no separation. So you're connected to everything already. You just have to realize that. You have to accept that and allow it to be, and you can pull it towards you with coordination of heart and mind, because you can't just do it with your head. Your heart has to be behind it, because your heart is what dials in the laser. So yeah, he goes back into, the techniques for intention and creating your reality. And he talks about slides and playing your slides. And talks about turning the key so that way you are messing with your energy meridians and activating them. And, noticing the nuance and the changes when you actually play your slide. And then he talks about the frame, which is taking your slide and just taking one, like if you think of your slide as a film roll that you're going to put on, the ending film roll that you're trying to achieve, and you just take that whole film roll and just take one frame from it, because it's a motion picture, right? It's moving, but it's a series of still events, separate moments. So if you just take a frame from that and you focus on it as well, that is really powerful.
And you can slide that in when you're walking, and do the energy meridian visualization, and focus on your slide or every once in a while focus on your slide while you're doing an exercise or something like that. Just kind of get that.
Yeah, I like what he said about exercise even. He gets into how, like, if you're just exercising without intention, you're never gonna accomplish anything. And I see those people at the gym all the time. Like, they are like, they're there, that's good, they're showing up, but you don't ever see them change anything, but they're doing the same exact exercises, the same exact weights, they never move up. And it's like, I guess that's where probably reality transurfing is what changed my intention in the gym. It was like, "No, I'm gonna totally change my body." So, in order to do that, it's funny because it's a good reminder for me. When I'm doing my heavy sets, it's not only about, like, hitting a heavy set. That is always my immediate goal, is to, like, beat myself from last week, but really I should always imagine what I want to grow. Like, when I'm doing quads, I wanna see my quads big, And for guys, biceps, because that's all they ever seem to want more.
No, it's the worst.
Leg
No.
day.
We're just sitting there like doing these and be like, I hope this makes my penis bigger.
You're gonna think it is.
There we go.
That's all that matters.
That's right. That's the intention. But yeah, he says too, he gives us a lot of techniques in this book. There's a lot to work from. and it's not really even necessarily supposed to be a technical book. He says that you got to just use what works for you and find what works for you, and whatever works for you is going to be the most becoming. But he talks about a lot of the different techniques and stuff, and we've talked about most of those. We can maybe talk about a couple more, or mention a couple more.
When he's talking about the frame technique where you just take 1 second of your slide, he talks about doing an energy explosion, which I don't remember this from before. So I was like, whoa, okay. But you imagine just 1 frame from your slide, and as you're imagining it, like, you imagine this sphere of energy coming out from you and expanding around you and going out as far as you can imagine, and then it just explodes. So you just put it out to the whole universe that's what's gonna happen, and that's a really cool way to do it. I'm gonna practice that a little bit.
Me too. And I'm going to just notice like all the goo just going every which way of
It's sticky as
manifestation.
fuck. Plasma.
It's like plasma. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
going through the trees and all through, because we're all connected to that. I think that's a really powerful thing that he talks about. And he's kind of talking about, hey, like this takes a while. But I think, it's important to understand that we are part of the environment. We're all one with it. We talked about it before. Like your dream is the dream of the creator. There's nothing wrong with whatever it is that you see when you close your eyes. You've got to be able to allow yourself to have, like, that's one of the biggest, to me, that's the biggest sticking point to this.
Yeah.
And it has been for me, right? Like, I'm just like, I've got to figure out how to open up and allow myself that leverage from, the image perspective, and allow the reflection to be what
Yeah.
I want.
That's really kind of that's where people get stuck, allowing themselves to have. You
Mhm.
know, but that's where that is the question of heart and mind, is to believe that it not only is possible, but you can be that. If I sit there and think about being a superstar and all that, I think that's for me. I will never reach the levels of fame that I want to reach, because I know on some level that it's outside of my reality. It's not something that I can bring to myself. And he said a lot of times people who sing, like, they sing or something, they want to be a singer, like, not because they believe enough or don't want it enough. Is that they know that they don't sing well. So they cannot coordinate their heart and mind. And that's where your goal is important. Your, not somebody else's goal.
Yeah, he talks about how you can't be successful from some sort of formula, right? Like that there's no formula for it. You have to forge your own path. And I find that to be 100,000% true. It's like the things that I've done in my life that were like in the box sort of things, they just kind of fizzle. Best case, that's a parody. The things that have been the most empowering and fun and exciting and successful, frankly, have been hatched out of just imagination. Doesn't mean that you don't learn techniques and platforms and skills and softwares and those types of things, but it just, you are doing things not in the same conventional way that has been done time and time again. And that's what makes it different and unique and gives it soul, frankly, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
because knowledge is, you know, people who have a ton of knowledge, yeah, they might have gotten it from reading books or whatever. It's just experiential, and it's that you can have it as well. It's a matter of choosing yourself, choosing to be, yeah, make yourself. They're not a chosen one, is what I'm trying to say. They're a chosen one because they chose themselves. And you can be a chosen one as well. So if it's available to you, you don't have to read every single book. You don't have to be the authority on any little thing. You get to choose what you are the authority that you have.
Yep.
But the whole idea of even trying to control anything about children and like little kids, they're always in playtime, right? But we as parents a lot of the time are like, oh, I want the best for my kids. I want to make sure that this happens and this happens and this happens, and they're not allowed to do this. And I think it's so funny because like pastors' kids, like the only one who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man. Like they have a reputation, right? Like pastors' kids are always the worst, but how much of their environment and their thoughts and their speech is so controlled so that they fit the perfect image, right? And it's no wonder why they end up being the way that they are. So, but he said here, that if you really want your kids to be good and you want them to, I don't know, to behave when they're supposed to behave and all that, like allow them to be kids, like allow silliness. He said, when you're sitting at the table, like mess with them and spread some jam on their hand. Like, just it's okay. And if there's a mud puddle, be like, you better get in that, you know? Like, let them do those things. And then when you allow play and silliness, it helps them to feel like they are choosing their reality. They get to choose their response. They get to choose, like, when you take all their choices away from them, you're confining them in a box and then you're making them want to push out of the box.
That's
And
right.
then kind of, yeah, it gets into even like
School.
schools, the school where children get to be the teacher and teach the teacher or teach their other fellow students, they tend to do better. They learn the material more than just rote memorization. Like rote memorization, they'll memorize it for now and then they'll lose it later because it really never registered and never hit home. And that is a technique that even regular school teachers are taught is to, you know, make learning fun. If you can make it a game, it's like Mary Poppins. She said, in everything that must be done, find the element of fun. And when you find the fun, it becomes a game. And so when you give them choices, like, do you want to do the dishes or do you want to do this? it it is less confining and they're less likely to push back.
That makes
But
sense.
if you, yeah, but even learning as a teacher, every time that I could make it a game or a competition, the kids tend to not only enjoy, I mean, I could make grammar fun. That's like the worst, most boring subject in the world, but when you learn how to make it a game, it, they loved my class and they were learning the content.
And they know what past participles are.
They know all their parts of speech.
Well, I mean, think about that in relationship to the mirror too, right? Like not just with kids, but it's like
Yeah.
the more that you try to force certain circumstances to go certain ways, the more you like what he calls taking the world by the throat, and the more it's going to evade you. It's like
Yeah.
pushing on the mirror, and now you've bent it and it's distorted. So all you've done is make a mess, essentially.
Yeah. A distorted image. I love that word. That's the one I always forget, but that's really what it does. When you sit there and try to control it, you distort the image. You're not getting exactly what you want.
You're getting a funhouse mirror kind of version, like a
Yeah.
Carney Bizarro reflection.
But then he kind of gets into the transfer chain. Speaking of that, so this is a totally different topic, but
Mhm.
like when he's talking about the parallel realities and switching timelines and stuff, he talks about how when you start seeing the weirdness, things that are just definitely different or the really weird looking people and stuff like that, that's showing you a transfer chain where you're switching timelines. It's like sometimes it just happens. We know weird stuff happens, but
Well, it's
usually that
like
is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
go ahead.
I think the cool analogy is it's like a minute hand on a clock. It's
Yeah.
like you don't see it actually, you almost never see it move. You know what I mean? Every once in a while you'll
Oh
see
yeah.
it move, but you usually don't. And so that's kind of like how things are happening, out here. Like it's all changing very subtly,
Yeah.
like the minute
The
hand on a clock.
I used to try to watch a minute hand on the clock, so I liked that analogy a lot. When I was little, I
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna watch that move.
I mean,
It moves, but you can't you don't see it happening.
it's a good analogy because it's like just because you don't see something doesn't mean it's not there, right? It's like whenever you order a coffee, you know that the person that left the counter is going to go get you a coffee. You don't doubt it. You know it's going to be, part of the process. And so, you know, closing this book out, I think is he's really trying to close this loop of this image reflection, just like really trying to like drive the point home to not get stuck in the reflection. It's so easy to do, to just not be at the cause, be at the effect,
Yeah.
but thinking that it's the cause.
Because when you're in the reflection, you're basically doing non-lucid dreaming. You're just absolutely reactionary. You have no control over it. You're subject to fate. However, the cards are dealt.
Reality is controlling you.
Yeah. And we want to be the reality maker. You want to be the person who creates your own reality and isn't a victim. I think that's one of the biggest things too, is the realization that all the times that you felt like you were a victim, you had the ability to flip that around. And you still do. You still absolutely can. And you can sometimes look back and you can see where you and your thoughts affected things, and you never thought of yourself as the person at fault. And in a lot of cases, like, you're not completely at fault, but maybe the way that you were perceiving it and the way that you were acting, um, helped to create that scenario, though.
Yeah, because you're
And who wants to be a victim when you can be empowered?
well, if you want an
When you can
excuse.
wake up from the dream. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. Well, some people do want it, but and that's I kind of get it. Like I feel the compulsion sometimes to just be like, well, I'm just gonna me, but
Oh,
it's
we
like,
all do, yeah.
you know, but if you can just, those are the moments. So you got to wake up and be like, all right, I feel this. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's never too late to just be like, okay, cool. I see what happened. I fell asleep. I got caught in the reflection of the mirror, and that's okay. Right. Like at any point you can change that and just make that shift and just become aware and come back into awake, being awake instead of being asleep and in the reflection.
And guilty feelings are really the one thing that are really holding you back, and, all of them, dissatisfaction, all of it, but guilt especially. And I like what when he gets into guilt, he said, sometimes it's unconscious, like, you don't think you feel guilty, but you do on some level, but what do you do about it? All you have to do is apologize once, and you never have to justify your actions, especially because there are so many manipulators who will take your guilt and run with it, and they will use it to keep manipulating you.
Yeah.
And to be at the cause instead of the effect, you have to realize that you don't owe an explanation all the time.
Yep.
You don't have to justify what you did. Apologize, but you don't have to keep apologizing.
And don't allow yourself to be manipulated.
Yeah.
Like we said last week, it's like it's the content, not the relationship. So it's like anyone can use these principles. So don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of either. It's very easy, to fall into that trap if you're a trusting, person, or you're naive or vulnerable or kind of innocent or whatever, to kind of fall into somebody's, um, you know, little
Sphere of
manipulation
influence. Yeah.
game. Yeah. Yeah. And then, just be aware, of it, and allow yourself to have, that reminds me of that other the guardian,
The gatekeeper or the guardian?
the gatekeeper, sorry, not the guardian, the gatekeeper to eternity, which is coincidentally, that's the name of this chapter. Would you mind looking that up again? Because I love that quote.
Yeah.
It's really good, talking about allowing yourself to have and going for the thing that you really want. That's really going to be pushing through your own resistance, maybe is kind of the gatekeeper to all those things, all those possibilities. They're all right there for us. We need to be able to just take pretty much like an action toward it and not hesitate.
But before we get into that, let's really quick talk about how the amalgam alone, just my world takes care of me and everything works out as it should. If Even if you don't want to do any of the other stuff, if you don't want to do slides, if you don't want to turn the key, if you don't want to do like the frame technique or any of it, um, the outward explosion, you don't have to do any of those things. If you just literally adopt the philosophy that everything that happens is working out for my greater good. And that is alone, because the world is a mirror and you will see it, like that is enough. He said that's all you have to do. But all the other stuff is, I mean, why not? Why not push for it? Keep doing it. It's awesome. But just adopting the amalgam that your world takes care of you and that everything is working out exactly as it should. So that means like when you have an intention and the shit happens, we don't focus on the shit. We know that it's working out exactly as it should, because it's going to get you there. You don't understand how, but that's not for you to understand. It's for you to just look at it, see it, and be like, nope, it's still working out right. Like it's still going to happen. So I just wanted to say that first, because I feel like that is so important. Just that's how you change the reflection.
Yeah, highlighting the evidence that things are working out to your benefit. Like a Polaroid picture, it's going to take a while to develop. You got to keep your arms up in the mirror, as he says, in order, and wait. It doesn't immediately reflect. That's one of the mirror principles, is that there is a delay in the reflection of the mirror.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a
Okay.
coordinated, conscious, intention. And then, that last little part, the gatekeeper to eternity, is just taking action when you see opportunity.
Yeah.
It's a really
The alternative space contains everything, and everything that you wish for with your heart and mind is yours. You should be aware, however, that a gatekeeper stands at the threshold to eternity, an absolute law that guards access to everything to be found there. This implacable guard only permits access to those who have the boldness to assert their right as maker. Your verdict is your entrance pass. I am capable and worthy because I have decided it is so. I do not want or hope, I intend. Claim your right, and the gatekeeper will open the gates of eternity before you.
Yeah, you got to allow yourself to have. No one is going to give you the right. You have to take it.
Yeah.
It's like when Castaneda, maybe, I don't know, is talking about ruthlessness.
Oh, yeah.
Like it
Castaneda.
it doesn't have to be violent. It's just like, no, I'm taking that. You know what I mean? It's not aggressive. It's assertive.
Yeah, he
But
says
you
that the
have to take
big
it.
qualities that person has is to be ruthless, cunning, patient, and sweet. And it's like, you can be all those things. You could be ruthless and still be sweet. You can be cunning and still be sweet.
I
But
am.
patience is also part of it. Yeah.
Thanks for noticing. No.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not about it's not about anything other than just knowing being clear in what it is that you want. You're aligned in intentions, thoughts, actions, all that. It's just going in the same direction. And then whenever opportunity comes from the flow, you say, that's that's for me. I see it. That hat will look good on me, right? Like it's the same as picking out clothes in a shop. Oh, that's got, you know, style. That matches mine. That is the road for me. And recognizing those doors when they open like that.
Yeah, what does he say about that? He says something about recognizing oh, you don't have to be the one to come up with all the great ideas. Like, so when he's talking about knowledge and, you know, like people getting it from books and all that, well, the great ideas don't come from other people's stuff. They don't come from books. They don't come from like worlds of rote knowledge, stuff that you've memorized. It literally just comes from the idea that all you have to do is recognize it when you see it. So it already exists. The ideas exist. The musical melody that is going to be the next big hit, it exists already. Like the three chords that you needed to make it perfect. All you have to do is recognize it when you hear it or when you see it, that it's yours, that is what you needed. That is your little drop of inspiration to make you their creator. Remember what he says about the creator. Like that is your job here on this earth, is just to be a reflection of God, and God is a creator.
Yeah.
Like that's how you honor God. That's how you praise and worship God, is just to create.
Yeah, he says once you have a foundation of knowledge, you can change the focus of your intention from receive to create.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says right after that, you do not have to come up with ideas, just recognize them when they hit you.
Yeah. So you just have to be open to seeing that was for you. That little trill hum that you have in your head that you woke up with in the morning, that's your freaking next big hit song. Or
Yeah. Trust your intuition, because like what else? I mean, what other choice do you have? You sit down with your mind and try to plot everything out, and good fucking luck with that, dude. Like,
yeah. When you try to do things just intellectually, it never ever works out the way that you want it to. Or not
no.
without a lot of struggle. I mean, it can. But that's why people think like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, you know, or success is only for some people. Because they're not coordinated. They're not using the heart element. They're literally just trying to do it all with their head. And your intuition is your heart. It's the rustle of the morning stars.
It's the rustle of the morning stars. It's how you decide what you should choose when it does present itself. Then you take action without hesitation. Which is easier said than done, but if you can do it, it's so smooth, you know. Every
Yeah.
once in a while. And then you get better at it. You'll get better at it. You'll notice it more.
And then in the afterward, he brings up a lot of the Carl Jung stuff and synchronicity.
Yeah. I was excited to get into this part.
Yeah, it's so, because if you're watching, then you've probably experienced synchronicities in your life where you're like, oh man, I'm in the flow. Like for some people, it starts out as angel numbers. I think that's like, when you keep seeing 222 or 111, like you feel like you're in the flow somehow, right? But then it becomes like he gets into Carl Jung talks about the fish, and for whatever reason, he was just thinking about a man, like a version of a man and a fish, like combined. And then later that day, like they served fish for lunch, and then somebody told him about a dream about a fish, and then somebody showed him a picture of a fish, and it just all these weird fish coincidences. And he started noticing that when you kind of focus on something, then you keep seeing it, and he calls it synchronicity. And this really just, I had a friend the other day, and he doesn't know anything about this. He he had a Dodge Challenger and wanted to get a Mustang because he had a Mustang at one point and it was his favorite car. So he's been looking for the same exact Mustang. Finally find it, leading up to that, like for a couple days before that, and he'd stop at a stop sign or stoplight. There was a Mustang stopped right next to him. And he was like, what is the odds of this, right? So then he finally finds his car and he bought it last weekend. But it's like he said 3 days leading up to it. So he didn't know that it's synchronicity. He doesn't know that it's, it's an actual phenomenon that happens, but he was in the flow. Like he had unintentionally used intention to get his goal, and the universe is like, "Yep, here you go. Here's your signs. It's happening."
Yeah, and then Vadim is talking about one of the other little stories that he is using, that Jung talks about a beetle, and then he includes that, and then he talks about as Vadim's like thinking about whether he should write about that particular story, there's like a beetle that comes into
The
his
scarab beetles,
office.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like the very same one that is from the story. He's like, he didn't even barely notice it at first, and then thought about it later and was like, oh man, that's right. Sometimes the obvious is sort of unseen. He says that he didn't like miss it. Well, he kind of did miss it, but it didn't surprise him. It was like a confirmation, I guess.
Yeah. That's kinda how I see synchronicities. It's more like I'm in that flow, and the universe is showing me that it's happening.
Yeah.
But he says as you work on your energy, because of the delay factor in changing the reflection, um, I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
He's talking about working on, you said as you work on your energy with the delay.
Oh, yeah, as you work on your energy levels and you free up your energy by,
Closing.
deciding to be impeccable and closing out projects that you are no longer doing, working on your physiological energy, all of that. As you do those things, manifestation, your intention happens a hell of a lot faster. So it's not just you have the delay still, but it will happen faster as you work on your energy because you have more focus on your intention.
Yeah, you'll trust the process more too, which will allow you to not fight and resist, you know, the world's doing.
Yeah.
You won't be like yelling at the server, "Hey, did you get my order? Did you get it right? No, I said no black olives on that." You'll eliminate all that, and they'll be able to just zip back there and get you whatever it was that you wanted. It's like anything else, a process. I'm still learning it, but I'm really fortunate to have discovered it, because I don't know that I would have put things together quite like this, even with all the other pieces of information that could connect or work with
I'd
it.
still be getting in my own way a lot. Like, I would believe on some level, and then another part of me would be like, but maybe that doesn't work. So I would
Well, I mean,
never.
yeah, I'd probably be coming from like the NLP thing, which is kind of like, it's almost like a parlor trick in a way.
Yeah.
This seems just a little bit more sincere in a way, if you will.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're, because like all the other stuff, and then now as I'm reading the Kabbalion and sort of interpreting it, because he talks about at the very, very end of this how he is speaking as one of the ancient mystery school people, basically. Like he's like, I'm part of the ancient magician. I'm on their side, basically. He's not saying that he has their abilities or skills or anything, but he's saying that that's the approach that he is coming from. Ancient magic, which would be the same as this, what they were talking about, that came out of ancient Egypt with Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, and the Emerald Tablet, all that stuff. And everything that he's talking about in Transurfing is in that book. It's in there. It's just, it's not, it's just not like described in the same way, but it's all those principles are in there. And so it's pretty cool the way that he like spells it out. I wouldn't have gotten it. I wouldn't have seen that stuff in there.
See, and my filter went straight to Castaneda when he was talking about the magicians and stuff because I know that's where he got a lot of it too. And because I can read this book and I can hear Don Juan in my head talking to me. So,
That's
do you
cool.
got a scarab floating around?
There is a lightning bug in here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wow, firefly.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
That's a sign.
Yep.
What a good final episode. You turn into a firefly. You're not a snail anymore, Bootsy.
I, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I mean, it's tough, because life is, things don't go the way that you expect. Let's just say that. So it seems like maybe your life is in upheaval or turmoil or God knows what, no matter where you are, who you are, there's going to be all kinds of unforeseen circumstances and things that just pop up out of nowhere that you would have never, nothing is certain, really. It's all changing. So just being able to rest and relax and be comfortable in that uncertainty, that's, I think, such an amazing place to try to remember to be able to come from if you can do it. And it's
Yeah.
just a practice that you get better at over time where it's like, okay, and less you're working against yourself less and less and getting in your own way less and less and allowing yourself to have and pursue what it is that you feel compelled to do by the rustle of the morning stars. Yeah, it's been an awesome series. I really appreciate you. Thank you for doing this with me. Wow, it has been involved. It's June, so we've
I
been doing this
know.
for like 6 months.
Has it been that long? Wow.
Almost. And so yeah, it's been really helpful for me though. I really have gotten a lot out of it again. And I've read these chapters even again multiple times. I'm probably going to read these last two several
Me
more times.
too. Yeah, the mirror world is so good. Even the gods or chapter,
The Dreams of the Gods.
the dreams of the gods. Yeah.
I really like the mirror one. The idea of polarity is really established and illustrated there well, which is again one of those ancient Hermetic principles, the
Yeah.
principle of polarity from the Kabbalion. But he just does such a unique job of explaining all this stuff. And he says in the afterword too that this information was given to him by the overseer in his dream, but it was not his, but that he did have some challenges interpreting and trying to put it into words, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of this, it's like what James says. He's like, I feel like I wrote this book to myself from the future or something, right? Like where
Yeah.
I think a lot of the ideas that are present in here are kind of inherent. They're like embedded in us, like that ancient, and maybe even that ancient magic is.
I think that's why it resonates so well though.
I think so too.
Because you're like, "Oh, yeah, I see that."
Yeah. Because then once you see it, it becomes it becomes confirmed, right? Like you're like, oh, I kind of like had a hunch about this, but now I can confirm it. And so like at that point, that means that you can actually use that to your advantage, which is pretty huge. You can count on the process at that point. You can be like, it works.
It's funny too because when he gets into the overseer, he talks about how he had met him in his dream, and he that's the beginning of the book. And he said, "I don't know if it's a real person or not. Like, is this one of the?" He believes that because I know that Don Juan, who was Carlos Castaneda's mentor, he and his group of magicians all escaped this reality. Like, they moved to a whole different reality, and so he said that they probably still are able to affect this reality, but probably more likely through dreams and stuff. And he said, so he felt like maybe the overseer was one of them. And he said, I can't tell you that it was a real person, but I can tell you that I believe it absolutely was, that it was one of these magicians from the past, because it changed him in a profound way. Like, not only was he already kind of doing some of the stuff probably from going to school for quantum physics, but it actually made him for once in his life want to write it down, and all of a sudden he was writing the book. So
Yeah, and he
I
said
thought
he
that was
he
neat.
had never really had the skill to write things down before, so it was kind of new to him
And
too.
desire, yeah, skill or even like a passion to do it.
I can't imagine he was very young either when all this happened. I mean, he seems like, he was, yeah, I don't know.
Though he was practicing some of it in college, as a student, because they talked like when they were doing the whole leaning into the
Oh
emotion
yeah,
thing with the
yeah.
girl who is wearing all black and grieving and stuff, and they're all crying and telling her to kill herself.
Yeah, when are you gonna commit suicide? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Yeah. But powerful, powerful, cool stuff. And yeah, thank you so much. Tell us all what you are up to and what you're gonna be up to and how people can tag along. We're going.
Um, you can find me on Instagram as Abbstract1, spelled just like it is right here on the screen. I I do personal training and online coaching. So if you're into like trying to improve your body and having the body that you can have, because anything is possible, right? You can hit me up there. But also, I'm on Secret Society of Good Guys on Fridays and Sundays, on the Project Cheney channel if we're not taken down on YouTube. So, and I should be having an episode of Project Cheney coming out soon as well.
Cool. That's amazing. Yeah, be sure to follow Abbie. Follow Abbie on Instagram. I've got links down in the show notes underneath the video here. And then I've got her channel featured on this channel as a featured channel. So go and subscribe to her YouTube channel here on YouTube as well and help to grow that. I've also got a transurfing channel. It's just transurfing content of mine. And so check that out if you can. I'll have some different stuff popping out over there. This series will pop out over there at some point, but I've got a lot of videos that I'm going to put out over there, and then I'll be making videos here. I'll have a different guest next week on this show of Blue Collar Mystics, and yeah, I'm kind of rearranging some things, so I'll have some more announcements about that coming soon. I got a
You're
comedy.
replacing me?
No, you are irreplaceable. Okay, if we haven't learned
Good,
any,
very good answer.
if we haven't learned anything from 19 chapters of individuality spiritualism via the oddly named Russian Rainbow Book, that we have learned one thing, and that is you are absolutely irreplaceable and always welcome. But yeah, I'm going to bring some other guests on just to spread some love and do some different things,
Okay.
introductions, just for fun. And we'll reconnect. I would love to do a Tufty series and anything else you're interested in.
I
Really.
would too, because that would be kind of a mini series. So
Yeah, it might be like 3 or 4 or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's a great book. If you've had the patience and fortitude to go all the way through Reality Transurfing,
you
then
have
you
to.
definitely need to read Tufty. But
It's I've listened to that audiobook and read it so many times. It's so powerful.
yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, maybe we'll visit that in a month or 2 or something like that in a little bit, give
Sounds good.
a little summer break time. And I hope everybody has a lot of fun. Get out there, get out and about. Thanks so much for hanging out. Yeah, we went super fucking deep on this, guys. Like, I don't think anybody goes this deep on this book. People go maybe the first 10 chapters. That's about all they can do, because it's a lot.
Yeah.
So y'all are amazing. Thanks for hanging in there and hanging with us. We got 21 people as of now on this stream. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, thank you all so much for sticking with us and listening to me ramble.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I mean, I love this stuff. Thanks for sharing with us. Connect with us. The Telegram. There's a Telegram chat. There's a Facebook group. Hop in. Come say hey. Shoot me a message. Whatever. And yeah, have an awesome week, everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of it. And yeah.
And I just want to say thank you, Vadim Zeland, for changing my life for the better. Absolutely. You are an awesome man.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. Thanks for streaming the book into reality. It changed a lot of people's lives. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fortunate as hell. I've gotten messages from people who the book completely changed their lives. I get to hear about that, and the fact that, you know, when we are making stuff like this and putting it out there, that it's inspiring other people, it's helping them, you know, they're able to see some of these phenomena in reality, which maybe, who knows. So yeah, thanks to Vadim Zeland and you know, and the Russian Federation. I'm kidding. But no, thanks
Man,
to
some of the most mystical people come from Russia.
dude, it's crazy. And yeah, there's a lot of but there's a lot of great literature out of there, and we will explore Tufty and maybe some other stuff. Thank you guys so much. Awesome chat, very lively. You guys are amazing. Thanks for being here. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful night. Appreciate you guys. Cheers to you. We'll see you soon.